Hey everyone, I promised you a video about mages, the matrix, larvas, and how it's all interconnected. I started talking about this once before and ended up going completely off topic. The first time I recorded something, it led to another video, which I hope many of you will find interesting, mainly for its technical aspects. In that video, I talked about whether high vibrations really help against larvae. Some people claim that high vibrations protect you from them, so I decided to look into that more deeply. Do high vibrations really help against certain types of larvae? Which ones do they not help against? What is the actual mechanism and technology behind creating these critters? And how does it all work so you can understand what methods of dealing with them might be effective and which ones might not work? But now I'd like to make a second attempt at this topic, specifically focusing on the matrix, mages, and larvae so that you understand how all of this functions together. I've talked so much about the matrix on my channel. I've said a lot about the neural network, about larvas, about mages, about everything. But at some point, I realized that people don't fully grasp how all these elements interconnect, how this entire system operates, and how everything is used to control humanity as a whole. As I've said before, larvas are essentially one of the tools for controlling and manipulating human consciousness. The people who rule this place, who basically seized our world, said they would reign over it. And as I've mentioned, this is all about magic. They use magic to create different manipulative tricks in order to manage humanity. One of these manipulative tricks would be energetic informational fields, which are basically algorithmic influences, certain coded energies that can cause illness in a person or do something else. I've recorded another video where I explain how these things affect us, how they look from another perspective. So you'll see that one too. Also, it's worth noting that energetic informational fields can be burned out, but not by simply using your own energy naturally. If energy of that kind is embedded in you, you can envision a fire that flares up from within you. Basically, imagine yourself burning, turning your energy into a fire that incinerates all of that energetic coding, all those algorithmic impacts that might be affecting you. Those programs burn quite nicely. That's a useful hack or practice you can do. Keep going until it's all burned up, visualizing it dying out and falling apart. Anyway, we got sidetracked. Energetic informational fields are a big part of what they do, though it's not necessarily enough to get them the results they want. Those fields just impose certain states on people or on their energy fields, but on their own they can't necessarily force you into the matrix. You might recall that I said all these egregores, these intermediaries, these weird mechanisms, they all want to do the same thing, push you into the matrix. Everything is aimed at herding you into the matrix. Larvas, for instance, are created as a kind of expendable unit, a program of artificial intelligence used to control consciousness. They're designed so that they don't always need direct intervention by a mage or a telepath to sway you towards something. They can just whisper, "Look at that egregore, it's such a good one. Let's join it. It's wonderful, trust me," and so on. These critters are intended not only to manipulate your consciousness while you watch TVs, for example, when they present you with some president or other, and a larva in your mind goes, "Listen to him, he has such good ideas, let's trust him." Don't trust that other person, but definitely trust this guy. But also to herd you into the matrix itself. That is their main goal via larvas is managed into certain mental frames. So why do they install larvas in us? As I said, to instill in you the thoughts or feelings someone else needs you to have, to make you a living battery that can be manipulated at will. That's the reason larvae exist and get attached to you. Some people ask, why haven't these mages just taken over the world already? If everything is so bad and they're so powerful, if they can create energetic, informational fields, curses, larvae that can whisper to everyone, and so on, then why haven't they conquered everything? But the answer is actually very simple, because you two are mages. Hello, You're not victims. That question can only be asked from the mindset of a victim. Why haven't they taken over the world if they're so big, strong, mighty, unstoppable, and we're just victims? But you're not pigs, and they're not your herders. Why would you let yourselves think like that? You're mages exactly like them. So why do they try to manipulate you? And why doesn't it always work? Because it's very hard to control someone of the same nature as you. There's this inherent law of free will. There are energies and matter, and many universal laws they can't bypass. They can only look for loopholes, maneuver within those laws, twist and turn like a fish on a skillet, doing everything they can to make you break those laws, or at least to make you agree to certain things that happen to you. Because as it's been said so often, everything here happens with your permission, through your own free will. You yourself allow everything that happens to you, absolutely everything. They only do what you allow them to do to you. So that's why they haven't conquered the world. Not everyone allows themselves to be owned, so to speak, but they really want to do it, which is also why they're trying to push transhumanism or to implant chips directly in people's brains, because even with all these manipulations, it's not working out the way they want. People incarnating here aren't pigs or sheep, though the elite might like to think of themselves as some kind of chosen ones. The truth is, every single soul, every single person born here is a mage as well, whether the globalists like it or not. They're not the only ones who are smart. Actually, these globalists have a very hierarchical concept of the world. They believe they are the super powerful at the top hate the nobility, or chosen ones, and then the lower castes which they openly claim not to consider as fully human. And a lot of people still follow them. That blows my mind. People are literally told they're not considered human, and they still say, cool wall. So cool. I don't get it. Anyway, each soul here has power. Everyone is a strong mage in their own right. If you realize how strong you are, you can move mountains. No one can touch you if you don't allow it. That's why they haven't conquered the whole world. Going back to the question of larvas, they use them to force people into the matrix, into various egregores, to coral them into something or other. Why do they do it through larvas? Because people won't just go along on their own, so they need a manipulative tool. They can't simply shove you in there without your consent. A lot of people think they can do whatever they want to me without my will. That's exactly what they want you to believe, but it's not true. This is the big realization you need if you want to be completely free from all the junk they pile on you. Understand that they literally can't do anything to you without your consent. Absolutely nothing. So that's why they unleash these swarms of larvas on you, to coax you into letting them in, because a larva can't attach itself without your agreement. It approaches your energy field and says, hey, see that person over there? She's just a sheep, right? Don't you agree? Or, look at that other guy. He's such a jerk, right? And if you mentally nod along, saying, yeah, you're right, that person is such a loser, that's the exact moment you signed the contract. You basically sealed it by agreeing with them with that negative suggestion. So the lava calmly enters your energy field and says, so great, honey, we're together for life now. And from then on, it sits in your head, prodding you with more negative judgments, illusions of superiority or negativity toward others, more and more deeply entrenching itself. Over time, you lose track of the fact that these thoughts aren't even your own. Eventually, you let the larva speak for you. As you identify with every thought it plants in your head, you give it the right to make decisions on your behalf. Maybe it says, hey, let's get drunk and trash a bar, or let's make sure we do something destructive. Or it says, oh, that's just your star sign controlling you. You have no power over your life. Let the stars decide. And you go, yeah, maybe you're right. By doing so, you hand over more and more control to the larva. Then the larva is free to say, Alright, we're signing you up for the Matrix now. We consent on your behalf. That's how you might find yourself yanked into some big system of illusions. People keep saying, but how can these dark magicians force me into the Matrix? They must have done it without my permission. Uh, Actually, they can't do it without your agreement. They don't have those rights. They can't forcibly do anything to you. The only way is to get you to say yes, usually through tricky or manipulative means. If you're not aware of how they operate, you can get fooled into it. They hit you where you're most vulnerable, where your boundaries are weakest. That's why they can't just sign everyone up for absolutely everything they want. Not everyone is susceptible to the same illusions. Even if someone is deeply entrenched in various egregores, it doesn't mean they've handed out unlimited consent on every possible level. People still maintain some lines they won't cross. That's how it goes. So, in short, you allow others to decide for you, or you allow your own larva to keep giving away your permission to things you'd never consciously agree to. Then they can funnel you into the matrix, and the matrix will start generating events in your life. You're no longer the artist of your own reality. Someone else is painting it for you. But even then, this is how protected you actually are. Even if they manage to shove you into the matrix, they can't automatically load you up with any random scenario without checking your consent at each step. They do have to keep asking for your permission, though subtly, each time they want to embed some new piece of negativity or manipulate your timeline. That's how strong the universal laws are. So, when you think they've conquered us all, we can't do anything, it's time to step out of the victim mindset, realize who you are and what you can do. Understand that everything they do has to go through your willingness to agree or believe in it. They manipulate you so thoroughly because it's basically a huge scam, like a phishing call from for fake police officers demanding your bank info. If you're aware it's a scam, you just won't give them your details. Similarly, when you're aware of how the metrics game works, you stop handing over your power. But not everyone falls for it. That's exactly why they can't corral everyone in the same way. Some people absolutely refuse to budge or to accept these negative narratives. That's also why they produce all these big Truman Show spectacles, endless illusions to keep wearing people down. If they could just forcibly do everything, they wouldn't have to bother with all this elaborate staging. And this is how larvas operate. They come at you, trying to sign you up for negativity, for illusions, for a sense of powerlessness. Maybe it tries to convince you that your life circumstances are all out of your control, that everything depends on external forces. And if you start echoing those thoughts, you grant more permission for negative events to manifest in your life through the matrix. I've talked about this a lot. Old subscribers know about my discussions on the matrix, on mages ruling the world, on how they do it, and so on. But it always comes back to whether you say yes or no to what they're pushing. Some will say, all I see in the world is filth. And then that's all they get. Others say, yes, the world might have its muddy spots, but it's also a magical place full of possibilities, full I refuse to be a victim here. I'm going to enjoy life. That attitude changes everything. You're no longer automatically subject to every negative scenario in the matrix. I keep reminding people that you should change your thought patterns, break away from harmful programming. Don't sign on to everything they propose. That's how you protect yourself, even if you haven't fully exited the matrix yet. Then they can't insert negative scenarios into your life at will. If you don't give them permission, you simply don't get that storyline. Also, keep in mind that no matter what they do, they can't disconnect you from your innate ability to create your own reality. They're not gods. The laws of the universe won't allow it. No one can do anything to any soul without its agreement. That's the basic principle of how everything in the universe works. Even matter itself doesn't care whether someone is a powerful mage or a baby chick. The laws of free will still apply. Another big secret is that you, too, are mages. Often, when we say mage, people imagine some fancy wizard with special powers no one else has, but in reality, all souls have particular abilities. Some are more experienced, more practiced, able to shape energy or create illusions. But that doesn't mean they can forcibly enslave younger souls. The universal law of free will exists to keep that from happening. They still try, of course, but not every mage out there is a maniac who wants to dominate younger souls. Some, however, are ego-driven enough to attempt it. When we talk about larvas, it's not just local sorcerers on Earth who create them. There are also more powerful forces beyond them. The globalist elite we often mention, the so-called deep or hidden groups, are more like keepers of the clock in the system. They've been placed here to manage, but they're not truly on top of the cosmic hierarchy. There are other forces, typically demonic ones, that are behind the entire matrix itself. They've basically captured this world and use it as a battery. The globalists are taught certain knowledge and techniques to keep humanity under control. They know how the matrix functions, how to code or program certain events. They are not the architects, but more like the technicians or programmers who keep it running. They understand the cycles and clockworks of the matrix. They see, okay, at this point in the cycle, a particular portal opens or some energy flows in, we can do certain magical operations to harness it. That's how it all works. They also create larvae precisely to herd people into their system, to prompt everyone to accept certain conditions. For example, you'll hear them pushing some new global crisis or some agenda. The larvae in people's minds get updated, like a Windows update, and suddenly start whispering you talking points, so that you, in your everyday life, begin to fixate on their narrative. Of course, it's not just larvae. They bombard you from all sides, the TV, movies, social media. They flood you with the same messages to get your attention. Then the larva in your head steps in, reminding you, see, everyone's talking about this same thing. It must be important. Pay attention. If you remain indifferent and say don't care about that at all, the larva can't do much. So the system tries to keep hammering away so that eventually you do care. Television is especially notorious. It's like there's an additional wave or frequency in TV broadcasts that can put you in a trance and let the larvae have more control. They're built to latch onto your mind more powerfully through TV. It's as if you become mesmerized, even if you initially saw through the propaganda. That's just the extent of their effort, endless manipulation from every angle, hoping you'll each new accept its new idea, so the larva can inch you toward the desired conclusion, letting you think you came to it on your own, and then sign away your consent. You can also see larvae steering people into certain sects or belief systems, some spiritual group, religion, or ideology, telling them this is where you belong. Everything else is evil. People then get stuck, refusing to listen to other viewpoints, labeling them as dangerous or wrong. If a person is on the verge of learning something that might free them, the larva will panic and try to distract them with irrational anger or trivial reasons to reject that knowledge. So, yes, these larvae drag people around from one carrot to another, making them chase illusions. They don't want you to notice or question too deeply why the carrot is suddenly purple instead orange, or what's really behind it. They say, just eat it. Don't ask questions. It's magical. Uh, Meanwhile, you're failing to see who's dangling the carrot in front of you. For many of you who have awakened, you can probably look back and see how, in the past, you didn't notice certain horrific things. You even applauded or cheered for them. Now, you might ask yourselves, why didn't I see this before? Who was blocking my vision? The answer is larvae, and those larvae serve the globalists. The globalists, in turn, serve demonic entities that built the matrix in the first place through some major betrayal eons ago. Egregores are also part of this structure. They're like energy extraction factories, and some larvae are created specifically by the owners of certain egregores, so they can manipulate your consciousness in just the right way to funnel your energy into those egregores. So you become a battery for them. That's why larvae are not cute little creatures. They're basically an artificial intelligence designed to manipulate your consciousness and feed off you. That is their only purpose. So yes, we need to get rid of them. Not just to sit to the astral plane or something like that. Some people seem fixated on wanting to see the subtle realms as if that's the ultimate goal, but they might not realize the risks and responsibilities that come with seeing and experiencing all that. If you want, I can talk in another video about what it's actually like to see the subtle plane and what the flip side of that looks like. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope this video ties together some of the missing links so you can see how Larvas, the Matrix, and everything else connect. So, going back to the topic of these demonic forces that have supposedly captured this world and use it like a battery. Those globalist elites we talk about, they've simply been given certain knowledge and told how to run things, how to keep humanity under control. They learned all these methods. They know which cycles in the matrix line up in certain ways. They act like technicians who maintain it. They're not the architects, but they do the programming. They know, for example, alright, when a particular time cycle rolls around, a certain valve will open in the matrix and that'll release or draw in some energy. Or this is the moment to open certain portals, siphon something off or pour something in. They use that knowledge to rewrite code or inject new algorithms into the matrix. And by doing that, they generate situations that fit their intentions. If they want widespread fear or panic, they time it so a large-scale fear cycle gets triggered and set loose. They do it all with intention, not by literally typing in lines of code. They sense the energy cycles or the big gears of the matrix turning at certain times, and they align their own intentions with those cycles. That's why we can get global crises or wars or large scale catastrophes. Because they know how to amplify certain events. They insert their plan, like, let's have something explode here or crash there, and the matrix runs with it, generating the scenario they want. That's how it was, for instance, with that global situation into 2020, the big crisis everyone talked about. They timed it to a specific cycle in the matrix, poured in their plan, and then used the larvae to push the narrative onto people, updating the larvae, so to speak. So they would say, yes, you really should be afraid of this, trust the big organizations, do as they say. Dude, it's like a Windows update for your mind. A new patch is released, and all of a sudden, the larva has new lines to whisper in your ear. Now it can talk about the big crisis, or this new regulation, or that big threat, or drawing you into a collective frenzy. The only way it works, though, is if you go along with it and believe it. So they hammer you from every side, TV, internet, your daily surroundings, until you start thinking, maybe there's something to this. That's how they gradually fish for your agreement. I've noticed that TV in particular is supercharged with a kind of broadcast frequency that can really drag you in and brainwash you, almost like a trance, so that you start believing every little thing presented to you, even if in the morning you were totally convinced it was nonsense. By nighttime, after enough exposure, you're thinking, well, maybe it's true. It feels like there's a literal portal opening when you watch it. The larvae can really get to work on you through that medium, but you always have the option to say no, to turn off the TV, or to refuse to buy into the hype. If you don't engage, the larva can't do much because it needs your consent at every step. That's why they blast you from all directions, to get you hooked, to make you pay attention. So the larva has a better chance of steering you toward their chosen conclusion. You also see how larvae can drag people into specific ideologies, sects, or belief systems. They'll claim this teacher has the absolute truth. that other person is lying, or they'll do the opposite, pushing you away from someone who might free you from illusions. If the larva senses that a certain source of information could threaten its hold on you, it'll make you feel suspicious or even hostile toward that source, so you turn away without listening. Ever notice some people who appear and immediately start spewing negativity at anything unfamiliar, tearing it down without a second thought? They might look for the tiniest excuse. A single word, a gesture, a glance to say, "Nope, that's it, you're wrong, I'm out of here." That's exactly how the larva protects its territory. If something might crack the illusions it has planted, it goes on the attack. You'll also find larvas leading people from one carrot to another, from one new shiny belief system to the next, never actually letting them pause to reflect on what's really going on. You might think, wait a second, why is this carrot purple? Isn't a real carrot supposed to be orange? And the larva will say, "Oh, don't think about that. It's purple because it has magical powers. Just eat it. You'll love it." Meanwhile, you fail to notice who's holding the carrot in front of you, who's tugging you along by the nose. If you've gone through a true awakening, maybe you look back and wonder, why didn't I see any of this before? How was I missing all these negative things I now realize are so obvious? Well, because something was literally blocking your vision. Something was whispering, "Relax, everything is fine, there's nothing to see here." And that something served the agenda of the globalist powers. Aggregors also come into play as big energy harvesting factories. Some larvae are custom, made by the owners of these aggregors, specifically to ensure you feed that egregore with as much of your energy as possible. They instill proper attitudes in your head, so you just give and give, never questioning that your energy is being siphoned off. That's why larvae aren't your cute pets or fuzzy psychics. They're artificial intelligence, like constructs designed to manipulate your consciousness and feed on you, plain and simple. Some people think we just need to get rid of larvae so we can fly off to the astral plane. But it's not only about that. I'm honestly not sure why some folks are so fixated on seeing the subtle realms. It's not necessarily a blessing for everyone. The ability to perceive subtle levels is a huge responsibility and can come with risks. If people really understood what it entails, they might think twice. But if anyone's curious, I could make a separate video discussing what it's actually like to see the subtle plane, including the downsides. Anyway, for now, let's wrap up love. We covered a lot of territory, repeated some of the main points. Hopefully, for many of you, this helps fit the puzzle pieces together. How larvas, the matrix, and everything else are interconnected. That's it for today. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Become a member of my Telegram channel and discuss with like-minded people as a supporting club member.